In this video, we're going to look at a proof of the quadratic formula. So basically what the quadratic formula is used for is that it tells you what the solutions of a quadratic equation are. And normally you would use the quadratic formula when you can't solve a quadratic equation by factoring. So quadratic equation is an equation of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So we're going to try to do some manipulations to this equation to try and derive the quadratic formula. So let's start off by dividing both sides by a. So when we do that, what we're left with is just, well, we have ax squared over a, which is just x squared, plus bx over a, which is b over a x plus c over a, which equals 0. Now what we want to do is we want to get this c over a to this side. So we subtract both sides by c over a. And we're just left with x squared plus b over ax equals negative c over a. And realize that now we have sort of two expressions here, an expression here on this left-hand side, and we're setting that equal to a constant term. And we're doing this because we want to complete the square. So completing the square is basically where you have something squared equals some constant. So that's just what we're trying to do. We're trying to get this, manipulate this equation so that it looks like a constant. So what we can do is we can add b squared over 4a squared to both sides. So b squared over 4a squared. And what this does is, well, you'll notice that we have x squared plus b over ax plus b squared over 4a squared. We can just factor this as x plus, let me rewrite this, x plus b over 2a quantity squared. And the reason why this is equivalent to this expression here is because you have x squared plus 2 times b times x divided by 2a, which is just b over ax, plus b squared over 4a squared. So this expression right here is equivalent to this expression. And this is just equal to negative c over a plus b squared over 4a squared. And we can rewrite this here as a common denominator. So if we have a common denominator of 4a squared, what we'll have is just, well, we'll need to multiply the numerator and the denominator by 4a for negative c over a. And doing this will get us negative 4ac plus b squared, which is equivalent to b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared. And once again, we're just trying to get a common denominator here, so this is just Algebra 1 review. And so x plus b over 2a squared equals this thing right over here. So now what we want to do is we want to take the square root of both sides. Okay, so take the square root of both sides. And by doing so, what we have left is just, well, the squared and the square root, they cancel out. So we're just left with x plus b over 2a. So x plus b over 2a is equal to, we have the square root of this thing right here, and this is just equal to the square root of b squared minus 4ac over square root of 4a squared. And we can rewrite this as, well, actually, this has to be plus or minus, because if you're taking the square root of this positive term, you can have both positive and negative solutions. So this will be plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over the square root of 4a squared. And we can rewrite this as plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over, well, the square root of 4a squared, that's just 2a. So we can write it as this. And now what we have left is just x plus b over 2a equals plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And we can subtract b over 2a from both sides. And the reason we want to do this is because doing this will just isolate x, and what we're left with is just x, because the b over 2a and the minus b over 2a, they cancel out. So since these cancel out, we're just left with x. That's what we want to do. X is just equal to, well, we can bring out negative b over 2a up to the front. So this is negative b over 2a. And then you have plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, right? Because we just moved this part up front. And since the common denominator is 2a, we can just simplify this as negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And so now we have shown that for a quadratic equation of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, the solution to the quadratic equation will just be x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And so this would be our solution. And so the quadratic formula basically looks like this. And all it is just a way to find the solutions of a quadratic equation without having to factor. And in this video, we talked about how we got this formula just from this quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, and doing manipulations and isolating of variables. And through these steps, you'll be able to prove the quadratic formula and hopefully better remember where it comes from and what the formula is. Thanks for watching.